It was donated to the museum nearly 60 years ago by Edith May Pretty, on whose estate the find was made. But perhaps visitors aren't told the most intriguing and mysterious part of the story.
My mother used to come down here and stay with May Pretty before the last war, and whenever she came down here she used to say that she'd seen these soldiers walking round the fields with their spears and their shields, and she was quite convinced that under these mounds there was something of great importance.
Len's mother, Dorothy Cox, was often a visitor to this house, Sutton Hoo, which was owned by May Pretty. It overlooks the River Deben in Suffolk. The estate contains a grave field, a group of low circular burial mounds, all of which had been ransacked centuries before.
Oh, my mother was a great traveller. We used to go abroad every time I left school in the holidays. And then when we got to the continent, she would always insist on us going third class, sitting on wooden seats, because she used to say, well, you'll meet a lot more interesting people down there and you'll learn a lot more about their way of life. Oh, she was a very artistic lady. She liked everything done to the best of everybody's ability. She was a beautiful needlewoman and painted lovely china and wanted the family to do everything to the best of their ability. And of course she was amazingly psychic. So many things that she saw and told us about actually happened afterwards. They're quite incredible. My mother and May Pretty were friends for many, many years, and I think it might probably went back to almost school days.
Oh, that's lovely. What exquisite work. Beautiful.
And she used to come down here and stay with May, and every time she came down here, she used to see these soldiers walking around these fields and these mounds with the spears and the shields. Then she used to say to me, I'm quite convinced that there's something under those mounds of great importance, and you really ought to have something dug up.
What are you looking at?
It's those soldiers again.
Soldiers?
The ones I told you about.
May's reaction was, oh, Dorothy, you've been dreaming again, as usual, a lot of rubbish. But, oh, Mother kept on about it, time and again. She used to come back and say, no, I've seen them again, May, you've got to get somebody out there and dig that mound up.
No, I feel sure it's this mound, Mr. Brown.
May Pretty asked local archaeologist Basil Brown to investigate the mounds.
Yes, I think this is the spot. This has got the right...
She asked him to start on the mound where Dorothy had seen the soldiers, but he explained that it looked like it had already been raided. Throughout that summer of 1938, Basil and 2 estate workers excavated 3 mounds, but found they had all been robbed. The next year, May Pretty insisted he return to look again at the large mound, and after a few days, Basil began to unearth the ghostly impression of an enormous Anglo-Saxon ship and the burial chamber of the then king and his treasure.
This was like finding the crown jewels of the first king of the English people, in a sense, because the man who we think was buried was probably Radwold or Redwold, the most powerful king of the East Angles, but he was not only the king of his own kingdom, but also the high king of all the other English kingdoms, and therefore we can see that what was found, his regalia, things that were made for him, are really his symbols of his status as the king, are essentially the beginnings of our own monarchy now. And I think you couldn't come to Sutton Hoo or to anywhere else of this sort without trying almost to imagine what must have happened here.
It is the most important archaeological find. It's the largest single burial that has ever been excavated, not just in this country, but even on the continent. The number of royal graves that have been recovered are very, very few. so that Sutton Hoo actually stands out as a royal grave and an Anglo-Saxon royal grave.
It was fortuitous that the mound was dug then and the treasure recovered, because 3 days later war was declared and the area was used as a training ground for tank warfare.
Archaeology is a very interesting subject for all of us who practice it, because there is, apart from obviously one's techniques that we have to be absolutely au fait with, there is this fingertip sense of intuition, if you like. You can't excavate a site without having a feeling for it.
Some of us see these things and some of us feel them. To me, I would quite understand that somebody would see something like this here, but I don't see it, but I sense it.
I believe it 100%, because she wasn't the sort of person to kid you at all. Absolutely certain, had it not been for her seeing these soldiers walking around the field, it wouldn't have been found. And at that time, pre-last war, I'm absolutely convinced that it was through her that it was dug up. There it is in the British Museum for all to see.
Whether or not you choose to believe Len's story, it is a curious coincidence that this great treasure belonging to the first King of England was discovered on the eve of the Second World War, just when this nation was facing its greatest hour of need.